read the Financial Review every day, to follow up the stock market trends. I don't have time to do that, or the expertise, so I've put it in the hands of somebody I thought really would.
Bankers' trust means brighter thinking about money.
That's why BT has outperformed the other organisations time and time again.
Well, it's a hungry time where people kiss the ground. And the higher you go, that's where the feeling goes. Just for the taste of it, refreshing taste of it. Diet
Beautiful.
When Pro Hard heard about new Stainmaster Extra Life,
Is that hard? Not the yay!
he got quite carried away with it. Pro was intrigued by its durability. Each fibre in the carpet is designed not to flatten, even in heavy traffic areas. However, new Stainmaster Extra Life has a 5-year guarantee against wear and tear, so it'll keep its good looks for years.
Oh, looking good. Finito.
DuPont Stainmaster Extra Life, the art of keeping a carpet looking good.
The training video you use in your training program should be custom-made for your organization by a company that specializes in the production of training videos. A company that exports its training products overseas. A company that has won the Australian Training Film and Video Award against all comers. Video Communicators. Doesn't your organization deserve the best?
What do they like about National 9 News at 6?
The sport, football, netball and the soccer. Cricket. The Grand Prix and the, just cricket and sometimes football. KG. Cricket. And golf. The Crows, even though they get, well, beaten all the time.
Kim Dillon and KG, simply the best for sport.
As shock troops in the war of the world, Greenpeace has been tough, uncompromising and effective. And it's certainly got its message across to the public. But do its ends justify its means? Graham Davis continues our cover story.
Last March, Australians were treated to a classic Greenpeace operation, encompassing all the potent symbols it can muster. Its flagship, the Rainbow Warrior, in action on the high seas off Victoria against the big Australian BHP. Its declared mission, to protect a breeding ground of the southern right whale from seismic exploration for oil.
There are several different species of whales. There's also dolphins, seals.
Were there any whales there at that time?
No.
None?
None at all. We were actually in that area at that time to be absolutely sure that there weren't any whales there. We wanted to be up by the 1st of May, and the records show that the first whales that come in there are usually in about June.
But this is what television viewers saw from some of the media mustered by Greenpeace in the usual way.
Greenpeace has come here to save the whales.
No indication this was file footage of whales, and no attempt by Greenpeace to correct the illusion.
The conservation groups claims the exploration poses a threat to the southern right whales, which will calve in the region in coming months.
There were no whales there at all, were there?
But,
so why
but
do
that
it
misses,
then?
But that misses the point. The whales were about to come. The point
They were
isn't,
several months away from coming.
But again, that's the wrong perspective. It's not a matter of what's happening right this minute, and that's the problem with the whole environment crisis.
The campaign was directed by Molly Olsen, who's now left Greenpeace over personal differences, but who stands by the BHP action.
Well, now we would like to deliver a letter to you from Greenpeace, okay? Negative.
What the media wasn't told was that the whales weren't so much the end, but a means. Part of Greenpeace's worldwide campaign to stop oil exploration altogether.
I mean, people don't want oil. People want transport, they want heat, they want light. There are other clean, environmentally sound, and ecologically sustainable ways to achieve those goals. We don't have to have oil. Ultimately, there's not going to be an oil industry anyway, because there won't be any people alive on the planet to drive cars.
You see us saying we want to see a future without any fossil fuels, right? And people go, what? You can't do that. Politicians, business cannot deal with that sort of honest, hardline approach. And that's
in this instance, at least, Paul Gilding is right.
If we were to do what they want,
which is to cease oil exploration, how much oil would we have left?
We currently have reserves of about 12 years.
You know, I mean, wind power is quite viable, solar power is quite viable. There's a whole range of energy sources that are renewable, that are environmentally benign compared to what we have now, which can power society.
But while this was the real agenda behind the Greenpeace action against BHP, both are now in the firing line for what happened here.
The worst part was that they placed themselves in danger. And Greenpeace says that it doesn't in any way ever endanger lives and equipment. In this case, it did both.
Terry McMullen was the public face of BHP at the time.
The Rainbow Warrior was manoeuvred very close to the seismic boat. That at one point, the crew of the seismic vessel were actually brought to lifeboat stations, and all the watertight doors were closed.
They expected a collision?
They expected a collision. A collision was imminent.
BHP did go to court to get an injunction against Greenpeace to cease its action and sue for damages. But then, mainly for image reasons, it backed off.
Greenpeace was equating BHP and its internal publications with the French Secret Service bombing the Rainbow Warrior. That's how cheap it got. You just have to accept the fact that there is no way you're ever going to win a war like this one.
But, says Federal Resources Minister Alan Griffiths, this was a war the big Australians should have fought for all Australians.
In the end, BHP also have a wider public duty, and yes, perhaps they should have done.
You know why they didn't, of course?
I think
because it would have been the mother of all public relations battles, wouldn't it? Greenpeace against the big Australian.
One of the
boy, oh boy, who would have lost that?
One of the great things in our political system is that I hear every day of the week the need for politicians to show leadership. Well, you know, some of these other people around, you wouldn't want to be sending them back for the ammunition when the going gets tough.
So BHP was spineless?
Well, I think a lot of them are.
But not only does business cower before the Greenpeace warriors, so do the authorities in the face of blatant challenges to the rule of law. Well, you say here in a newsletter about Greenpeace and BHP, and you signed it, it's under your name, we did break the law. You think that's all right, do you?
Yes.
You think it's okay?
Yep.
Who decides when you're going to break the law? You?
I do.
We kept them, we kept the federal police informed of what we were doing.
Did they know you were breaking the law?
Well, they would have had to.
Did they do anything?
No.
They didn't?
No, they just asked us to keep them informed of what was happening.
You say here, we broke the law, the police didn't visit you. So you can get away with it?
No.
Well, you did. You got away with it. You say, we broke the law, and the cops didn't come and see you after it. I mean, what the hell's going on in this society when this happens?
It's not for me to decide what action the police take.
Well, if I do it, I last 5 seconds. My feet don't touch the ground, and for most Australians, to break the law is to invite a full-blooded response from the law.
Well, how come they didn't get it?
Well, it's an interesting point.
Is it right for the public to deduce that there's one law for one lot and another law for another?
Well, it certainly opens up that prospect, and thereby, I think, potentially bringing the law into disrepute.
Tell me this, are you a member of Greenpeace?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
As well as being president of the Australian Conservation Foundation?
That's right.
And the president of the Australian Conservation Foundation also thinks the Greenpeace law-breaking is right.
Well,
they say they'll keep doing it, if necessary.
I think that's great. You know, I mean, I think that...
You're a lawyer.
Yeah.
You were trained as a lawyer.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're saying that there are some times when you can break the law.
I think there are some times when it's absolutely essential to. I mean, I think that that's what democracy is all about. And I think that we have to go across the line to defend nature, and I think that we're not doing it in our interest. I think that we're doing it in the interest of the community, and I think that there's a bravery and a recognition of some greater good there, which is absolutely desirable.
Just let me ask Mr. Garrett, does he believe it is okay to break the law in this respect? To tape and disseminate his very popular songs. You can't, on the one hand, say that it's okay to break the law when it might suit you, and on the other hand, argue and passionately that people shouldn't abuse copyright. I mean, it's so obviously hypocritical. Hypocritical.
Peter Garrett is an interesting reminder of the unity of the Green movement and some of its divisions. for he found himself caught between his roles as Greenpeace member and head of the ACF in a crucial debate, and one that has also brought Greenpeace under fire, the problem of intractable toxic wastes.
We set up a task force. Well, they beavered away for 3 years, and they put an enormous amount of work into looking at this latest state-of-the-art technology around the world. And the ACF endorsed their report, which said that the answer to the problem was the latest state-of-the-art high-temperature incinerator waste unit. And the minute they came with the answer, Greenpeace went berserk.
It was Greenpeace who mobilised opposition to the siting of a toxic waste incinerator at Corowa in New South Wales.
The strategic reasons for opposing hazardous waste incineration are that they offer an ongoing incentive to produce waste in the first place. And what Greenpeace is saying very clearly with public support is that it is no use trying to mop up the mess if the tap is still running.
What is the solution for all that junk, right, all that waste that is environmentally acceptable?
The main solution is not to produce the stuff in the first instance.
And so, because of Greenpeace, the waste issue still hasn't been resolved, 8 years after Barry Cohen set up his task force to deal with the problem. Much of it is still stored in metropolitan Sydney, inside the ICI plant at Botany.
This information was distorted in the debate around Corowa by a local doctor and the Greenpeace people who went around. One of the Greenpeace women was reported to have said that the children would be born with 2 heads. I mean, it caused panic in the area.
And, says Cohen, in contrast to his dealings with the ACF, dishonesty underpinned the whole Greenpeace campaign.
I've never found them do what these people will do, and that is just to hell with the scientific data, to hell with professional expertise. We're out to prove a point and stop this thing, and we don't give a damn how we use the data to do it.
Who's right, them or you?
Well, on the evidence that we've assembled, we think our position's quite a sound one. They disagree, we agree to disagree. I mean, it's a pretty civilised relationship.
But you know where this leaves the public? The waste's still there.
Well, precisely, and that's why we support the currently available high-temperature incinerator technology.
But the things that bind the Green movement are greater than the things that divide it. Most particularly now, its distaste for the Labor government.
The Prime Minister is talking now about fast-track development. If you object to any of those developments, what are you going to do? Try and stop them?
Absolutely. We're going to be left with little choice but to mobilise the community on a local, regional and national basis to fight those projects if they are environmentally unacceptable.
But the community wants these projects. The government is responding to a mood in the community that says we want jobs.
No, the government's got it wrong.
We'll support them opposing fast-track developments. What fast-track development means to me is the Joh Bjelke-Petersen approach to development, quick, dirty, get it out, let's cash up the quick financial return and let's worry about the environmental downside of it later on.
Bob Hawke and John Hewson don't scare Greenpeace. Greenpeace has got an agenda that started well before Hawke and Hewson were on the scene and will continue well after they've gone.
And while Greenpeace, as its charter requires, will remain above the political fray, it's embarking on a new direction, an attempt to mobilise its 87,000 members into direct action on its behalf.
We want to mobilise school kids into taking action in their schools. We want people to be mobilised in the workplace to take action, for themselves about...
We've got to go back to where the real power lies, and that's not in Canberra, it's with the people. I know that sounds corny, absolutely, but unless we get that fundamental groundswell of change, then the politicians aren't going to listen.
You're a pretty powerful man in this society now, aren't you?
Well, I think all environmentalists are powerful people in this society. Now, Bob Hawke has got no idea just how much support we as Greenpeace and other groups have out in the community, and they have no idea of the power that those people are going to have.
No one denies Greenpeace's considerable achievements or its right to continue fighting for the cause of environmental protection. But if it's to exercise its increasing muscle, it will have to curb its disturbing tendency to overstate its case. Some of the evidence so far suggests it has yet to learn an old adage that with power comes responsibility.
And And by way of postscript to Graham Davis's cover story, a new political direction for the Green movement has been foreshadowed by Philip Toyne of the Australian Conservation Foundation.
With both political parties having felt